On completion of that, based upon his choice, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilmember Dowpaz?
Sure, I'm going to give a thought tonight. It's still pretty fresh. We had the fire a couple of weeks ago, and I was able to come down to the city and watch the Emergency Operations Center and see what was going on. And it was really cool. Not that it was not scary, because it was. We were watching the progress, and we were watching as the flames were coming down the mountain, and it was nerve-wracking. I did observe some things. Our employees were a lot more calm than I was, for one thing. So hats off to our emergency manager, city manager, chief of police. Dave Espinoza, everybody that was there. There was many more names, so I can't name drop everyone. But we had a lot of support in that room, and people weren't panicking. They were sticking to what needed to be done. I didn't have a role. I was just there observing, and the only thing I was doing is I was on social media trying to make sure if somebody was saying something that was inaccurate, I was helping make sure that that people were directed in the right area for the right information. So anyways, it was a pretty humbling experience, and I just wanted to give my kudos to the team for all that they've done there. And also just want to add on top of that, that I know that our team has been very aware of the potential for flooding in that area. And we have provided some sandbags to residents in the area that needed them for the potential of flooding. And just love the preparedness and love where we're at as a city. And so that's my thought. And now I'm going to ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Dowpaz, for that. As we enter our agenda tonight, we'll start with asking the council if there are any conflicts of interest or perceived conflicts of interest you see that you would want to acknowledge based upon tonight's agenda. Are there any? Okay, I see no conflicts disclosed at this point in time. So we'll move on to item number 2. This is a discussion or action to approve 2 sets of minutes, the July 22nd, 2025 and the August 5th, 2025 City Council meeting minutes. Do we have a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Dowpaz. Do we have a second?
I second that.
Thank you, Councilmember Severing. Any further amendments or comments this evening? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Once again, I'd just like to point out, we used to get these minutes like 6 weeks later, and I think we were paying an outside party about $18,000 a year. These are now done by Ryan, our city recorder, in a very timely manner and just part of her responsibilities. So thank you very much. Enter into our active agenda now. Those who are online, Dave, if you would watch, if there's any that would like to comment. Those who are here this evening, if you would like to comment, I would invite you to step up to the podium and state your name, and if you're a resident of North Ogden, and please limit your comments to no longer than 5 minutes. So with that, we'll open up for public comments at this point in time. If anybody would like to comment.
Bill Swanson, North Ogden resident. A couple of quick things. First of all, Ryan, if you'd please express all of our gratitude for the firefighters that you work with directly. I know they were very, very busy during that fire, and we had a lot of help that came in from a lot of agencies all around the state, and it was pretty amazing to see everybody come together. Dave, if you'll let your emergency operations people know, it was pretty amazing to watch you guys up there helping those people evacuate. It was great. Good job. On item number 4, the public hearing, is it possible that before the public is allowed to speak, that we could hear the discussion between mayor and the council members about the where you're going to fall on the percentage tax increase, rather than us just kind of commenting based on where we ended up last week? I don't know if that's possible, if you'd entertain that, but if you would, it'd be great to hear that conversation, kind of get an idea of where you're landing. Then public can make comment, and then you guys could make your decision. Don't know if that's okay.
Well, if I'm reading the agenda correctly, I won't be opening the public hearing until after the presentation by Mr. Call, which I'll probably do, which will address probably what
Okay,
you're seeking. So would that work?
that sounds good to me.
All right, thank you, sir.
I am Heidi Bradley. I'm a North Ogden resident, about 200 meters from the fire a couple weeks ago, and that's why I'm here. As this could have been prevented had we had proper signage and gates, as we see in many other entry points to Ogden trails and even North Ogden trails. Now, I understand that the one in North Ogden, less than a mile south of the incident, that is private property, and that person probably has installed their own gates. And so this is what I would like more information about, because it is a city ordinance for no motorized vehicles there. And yet I am still seeing people on the trail with their 4x4s or scooters, and every single day since the fire. I spoke with many firefighters, and they shared that they had to inform people, you are not allowed to be here, while they were fighting the fire. I think this is pretty absurd, considering it is a city ordinance and it is illegal for motorized vehicles to be there.
We do happen to have our police chief with us this evening. And Dave and the chief can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe that there's a piece of private property just above where the fire started, the top of 1050, I think, where the vehicle entered. There are no trespassing signs there. I believe that before it gets to Forest Service property or county property, that is private property. And we as a city cannot close off taxpayers' property, although they may be interested now in doing that themselves, for sure. But yeah, it's hard. It's just like speeding, right? By the time the police get up there, the folks are usually gone from the mountain. But we do have our chief here tonight, and I'm sure he's aware of the fact, and I can keep an eye on that. I was reading an article the other day. It said of the fires in the state of Utah this year, 70% of them have been human caused. And unfortunately, we had some juveniles that appeared to ignore the signs and continued on up there and caused us a lot of grief. But we also have Dave here with us, who's our Public Works Director, and I think we're all interested in minimizing the kind of incident we just had. So, but we're glad you're safe.
We're all glad,
Yeah.
as well as the firefighters. They went to work really hard. They were really profound and heroes. I mean, what human stands up to a natural disaster, but a firefighter?
So,
Very admirable. And so you're telling me that this city has no way of, other than putting that city ordinance sign, there is nothing else that the city can do?
well, once again, we have the chief here who understands the law better than I, and Dave, John, who's on the phone. But I believe it's up to the private property owner to post no trespassing signs, that we can't post those on their behalf. Is my understanding. They have property rights. So we can't do that. We can't block off their property. They surely can do that in coordination with the city if they'd like. But we do have an ordinance that prohibits, I believe, somebody knows better than I am, prohibits motorized vehicles up there. It's just we have to catch them while they're there. We do have an ordinance, I believe. John, are you with us?
I am. Mayor, we could not install fences without permission from the landowners.
Right. But do we
And
have an
so you're-
ordinance that prohibits motorized vehicles up in the foothills?
Yes, there is.
So we just
Yeah,
have
and,
to,
and that is stated. There's a sign. I
Yeah.
talked with Blake already. He's my council member in my community.
it's there. It's just like a speeding sign. If people opt to obey or not obey, and we just have to catch them.
So you are saying that if the property owner is in favor, the city would be willing to coordinate installing proper fencing and,
We probably wouldn't incur public funds for private property, but we could surely help and encourage them to do that. So,
yeah, I've spoken with over a dozen neighbors and all of them are in favor and agreement of helping protect that land and better, like clearer signage, like clearly this was teenagers who installed it. So they are just following what the rest of the tribe is doing. And we have seemed to acquiesce that it's okay. Everyone has been doing it for decades or however long. So,
well,
and we could rally, I mean, many of our neighbors are like, great, this won't be that much money. We could rally funds to cover those
Perfect.
costs.
and we have a good source over here that can give them some advice on maybe how to do that with Dave. But yeah, it'd be up to them. So if you can garner up the interest and the money, we'll do all we can.
How
to
can I find out who owns, because there are, in my neighborhood, there are 3 entry points to trails.
I believe if you come down and talk to either John or Dave, there's those geo maps that'll show who owns which pieces of property, and it's a public record.
Thank you.
So, okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks for coming tonight.
It's good to see you again, Mayor.
Once
Brewer.
again, glad you're safe.
Mhm.
Anyone else? Anyone online, John? I mean, Dave.
Nope.
Sorry,
I think we're
didn't mean to
good.
insult you like that. Okay, then we will move on to item number 4 on our agenda. And I believe this is what Mr. Swanson was addressing. I think, John, if you don't mind, I'll go ahead and take this. It's probably easier being here than online, and you can chip it in wherever you'd like. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Before we open the public hearing. So just a little background. There's several processes in the property tax rate. Initially, when we were required to have a number to the county so that they could advertise truth in taxation and send out preliminary bills, the amount of 15.61% was sent to the county. That simply was the worst case scenario to give the council room to do further investigation. Unfortunately, when the information is requested by the county, we haven't combed through all of our books, closed out all of our accounts, so we have to give them a number. So that was the number that was given them, declared before we combed through the books and completed all the reconciliations. And actually, I think at that point in time, we were waiting for 2 sales tax numbers to come in, which are a significant portion of the city's revenue. So since that time, in conjunction with the council, we have combed through the books and we attached to tonight's agenda a revised budget, which included, I think, a proposed property tax increase of 8.92%. Since that time, we've received our final sales tax number. I think it came in yesterday, was it, Peter? We got the number. So it came in better than we'd expected. So we have made some further adjustments. And Dave, if you'd like to pull up the slide there. So our sales tax for last year with this most recent payment came in with, I'm going to round here, an increase over what we projected of about 2.75%. Let's see if Dave can get this up here there.
I think we're good, Mayor.
So we received, I think, $4,932,000 in sales tax last year, thereabouts. We feel that a 2% increase in that in our budget is justified based upon this last year and what we anticipate taking place. So we have increased our sales tax revenue from the original projection of $4,896,000 to $5,033,000. based upon having a full 12 months of payments. So that's an increase of $137,600 over what we anticipated. So what we've done now, after we've got in all our payments, after we've reconciled all the accounts, and after we've combed through everything, tonight we're proposing a increase in property tax between 4.5 and 5%. Not the 16.81, 15.61 that was sent to the council. That would generate an additional $140,000 to $150,000 of revenue to the city based upon a 4.5 to 5% increase. Originally at the, I think 15.61, it was proposed generating $3,481,000 of property tax. And now we're down to $3,156,000. This was possible because the additional revenues and that we received over and above what we anticipated in the 2024-25 budget, along with many of our departments coming in less than they projected in their budget. So that allows us to fund basically our capital projects fund out of excess in the current year. So tonight, the council will have a discussion on that, but the proposal would be that property tax be increased somewhere between 4.5 and 5%, whatever the council decides. So with that, is that kind of what you were anticipating in regards to discussion, Mr. Swanson? Is that adequate? Okay, so with that information, John, do you have anything else that you would add to that? I mean, yeah, John, he's online. John, do you have anything else you'd like to add this evening to that?
The biggest thing is that we need to specifically for the ordinance that's in the packet, identify what that tax rate is going to be. And so that number, council, is going to be somewhere between 0.001363 and 0.001369 based on that presentation the mayor made. So I can give you that number if you pick a percentage. We just need to make sure that's included in the ordinance when you adopt it.
Yes, I think once the council, after we hear public comments this evening and the council decides where they'd like to land with the respective property tax percentage increase, we can then compute the rate, John. And yeah, we do have to have that as part of our submission to the county. So anything else before I open the public hearing, John?
No.
Okay, at this point in time then, I would open the public hearing for those who would like to make further comments or seek additional information, have additional questions. The council is prepared to receive those comments. Once again, if you would like to make a comment or seek further information, I'd invite you up to the podium, state your name, and if you're a resident of North Ogden. So with that, we'll entertain receive comments. Anybody like to comment at this point in time?
Council, it's looking, Philip Swanson, North Ogden City. It's looking a lot better than it did last week. And really appreciate from my family, I know some of my neighbors, the continued work right up to just a few hours ago, working to reduce this increase as much as humanly possible. The sales tax numbers certainly helped, but I know that a lot of work has gone in and many hours have been put in to get this as low as possible. So thank you for that continued work.
Okay.
Reed Miller, North Ogden. I was about ready to kick all of you out with a 16% increase.
Some of us kicked our own self out.
Because, hey, we've been increasing it year after year after year after year. And so it's just something we need to be aware of. If we have to, as citizens, hey, cut things to to make budget? Hey, we do. And when we have an increase in taxes, especially property taxes, I know people increase rents and increase things. So we might increase the percentage of our employees at the result of our regular citizens paying out of their pocket for that. So, hey, I know you do what you can do, and I appreciate it.
Thanks, Reed. Someday, if you'd like to know why we've had to increase property taxes for the last 4 or 5 years, drop on by and we can help you understand that. Oh, great. Anyone else like to comment this evening? Anyone online, David?
No, sir.
Now's your chance.
Oh,
There
Susan
is a
Clement.
raised hand.
Okay, Susan Clemens,
Okay, can you hear me?
we can.
Yes.
Thank you. I wasn't at the meeting last week, but I started watching it, and I was just so discouraged with so many people calling you guys on the carpet, you council members on the carpet. Because I've been to a lot of city council meetings, and I know how hard that is to get that budget within acceptable parameters. And you guys sweat blood over this, and I know that. And it's really too bad that more people don't attend these council meetings or at least watch them on YouTube because they can go back and watch all of those. So I'm going to mimic what Mr. Swanson said and tell you good job and thank you for your hard work.
Well, thank you very much, Susan. We appreciate that. And we do need to give credit to our new finance director, who is making every effort to get his feet underneath him as he understands the workings of our city, and appreciate his efforts along with Mr. Call. He's put in a lot of work on this, and we're grateful for all those who have done it. So, okay, any other online, David?
No, sir.
Anyone else here like to comment?
Yeah, must be big enough. Kevin Burns, North Ogden. After sitting through, I don't know how many hours of city council meetings and budget hearings and work sessions and listening to you discuss the budget, I know that you've tortured yourselves to come up with a number. And I just want to thank you for putting all the hard work in. And I know there was some sleepless nights, and I'm sure Councilmember Dalpaz has considered to take up drinking to calm his nerves after. Because he wears his emotions right up on his sleeve, so you can see when he's being tortured by these discussions. But thank you for your hard work. I'm still on the side of I hate a tax increase, but like everybody else, well, it is what it is. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Anyone else this evening like to comment? Okay, at this point in time then, council, I would look for a motion to close the public hearing. Do we have such a motion?
Mayor, move to close the public hearing.
Thank you, Councilmember Pulver. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Watson. Any further discussions or questions? All in favor then of closing the public hearing, please say aye.
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 Thank you. All right, we'll enter into item 4B. This is a discussion or action to approve ordinance 2025-20, which would adopt the final budget and tax rate for fiscal year 2025 and 2026. So I think at this point in time, council, be happy to answer any questions you may have regarding the proposed property tax increase. But we do need to determine what that final amount would be so that we could submit it to the county so they can send out final notices at the appropriate time. So with that, what questions do you have? What discussion? Where would you like to go between the 4.5% and 5%? Councilmember Pulver?
So I'd like to start with the revenue side and make sure that everybody's good with what we're talking about. I guess the and like you and I were talking about gross versus net on sales tax is kind of an important thing. And I guess the one thing I just want to make sure that we do have in the budget the right sales tax fee, because when I added it up, I had 150 as opposed to 125. So I don't know if that's something that we need to go double check to make sure from the state that we have the right guess for next year.
Yeah, to get to the 4.5 to 5%, we have increased that from 125 to 165.
Okay.
So that has been appropriately considered in the new budget.
Okay.
It is a little bit confusing, isn't it, to have gross versus net?
And we
'Cause
did.
we
did
can
that-
only
we did
spend the
that to
net.
ourselves. Yeah, I know. We did that to ourselves, but I think that was because we were comparing that for so many years, and then we tried to waffle back and forth, and it was, I know it was confusing for me, but
Yeah, it's
So-
a bit confusing, but I think now we can understand that. What else do you have, Councilmember Pulver?
Well, just I mean, people are saying 2%, you know, and you were saying it's a lot, and to be honest, I think it's still a little low myself, but that's just from my, as you call it, pulver math. But I mean, just from the past 2 years, it's been year over year, it's been 5.5, and now it's 3.1 is what I had from previous year gross to this year's gross. So I guess, you know, to me, I'd still be amiable to pushing that up another, but again, like I said, I'd be okay with 2 myself, but you know, I don't want to increase property taxes if there's other means to do so. And the other means is to use what we have left over from this current budget year, which I agree should be applied to anything capital fund improvement, as opposed to taking stuff out this year and increasing taxes just to fully fund the capital improvement.
Well, and the excess this year has fully funded it for next year, so.
Correct.
And we'll take a look at the report. Last report I saw was 2.81 or 2.64. I think the thing that's unknown on this, and I think with our conservative nature, with the passing of House Bill 379 by the
No, I understand that.
by the
yeah.
legislators of Weber County, who apparently, on our calculation, is going to cost us $150,000 of potential sales tax revenue unless we can get it straightened around. I'm a little bit hesitant, but let's hope it does come in more.
I think it'll
That's-
come around. They can come up with 1,400 people in probably an instant. But anyway,
Yeah.
I think what I was comparing was the last year's gross, not our budget year, our actuals. So
Yeah, we'll see that on the sales tax report, I think, as part of
anyway,
I think I'm making a presentation on I'm off, but we'll show that.
it's in there
Yeah.
somewhere.
So yeah, I mean, the revenues are the hardest thing, frankly, to anticipate. Our largest one being sales tax, on which we basically have no control. I think the positive thing is we have some commercial development taking place down here on 2700 that could lighten the burden of property taxes with commercial taxing entities and sales tax. Let's hope those get online as soon as possible. I think we've got some good things lined up there, and hopefully that'll relieve the burden long-term on our residents, so.
Yeah, and again, doing all the pulver math, I would say, you know, even 4.5 would be plenty. But again, that's you know, doing all the other things that we've been talking about, and to making sure that, you know, things are used where they're supposed to be, and not any more. So
I'm not aware of anything that's been used where it shouldn't be, so hopefully that won't change. I think the council's been very conservative, and the budget committee has been very thorough in their investigation, so. Any other comments? Councilmember Barker?
Just one comment, and I was thinking about this as we were presenting. This 4.5 to 5% increase equates to about $20 increase per residence. If that's about, my math is right, a year. So it's so what we're asking is about a $20 increase per year. I think that's a lot more manageable for most our residents than what we were proposing. So I give appreciation to Peter for actually figuring this all out for us.
Wish I could take credit for the sales tax increase, but
Yeah. It's been surely been a team effort. And, I think that combined with the school district lowering theirs, I think from 20-something% to 5.63% will lighten the burden
Mhm.
on the residents of our city and the county. So it's all good news. If you can reduce it, I wish, at some point in time it could be less, but I will just keep chipping away at it and see what we can do. Councilmember Dalpas.
Yeah, one of my main concerns throughout this process was to make sure that we didn't cut the capital improvements fund short. So being able to use excess revenues to provide that in this budget, that's excellent. And I'm good with a 4.5% number. I don't know how you decide 4.5 versus 5%. It doesn't, I think it's my guess is about 15,000 extra dollars in revenue if we do 5% versus 4.5%. I'm just taking our proposal of 150, if we did 150,000 divided by 5, that gives us $30,000. So it's about $30,000 per percent. So it's not a huge difference between the two. So I just struggle to know how to make a difference between those two. So 4.5% it is.
We just wanted you to have some good feeling like. you
Wanted to
made a
make us feel
difference.
good about making a decision.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Make it like, we wanted to give you an opportunity to make a decision.
That was really nice of you.
Yeah, no problem. Anything else? Okay, then I would be.
Mayor, I got just to make sure that we're on the same page, that we're doing the $15 a month for the,
That's, we haven't decided that yet,
Okay.
and that's not part of this meeting, so.
but at the same time, we're planning for that.
Well, we're planning to make sure that our roads are adequately maintained.
Okay, but the other way would be to increase property tax to
Yeah,
cover that.
that is, but the council, I think, decided, if my recollection's right, that they wanted to consider that in a transportation utility fee.
Correct.
So that will be addressed at a later point in time. So, yeah.
But the other thing we need to do as well, I think John mentioned that, we need to change the ordinance to that all the property tax goes into, is that still, because that was an asterisk during the truth and taxation.
Yeah, that's not on the agenda tonight, but I do believe that
That still has to be
that
done.
has to be addressed on, it's all sixes, so to speak. I mean, the revenues either come from there or sales tax, so, yeah. If you'd like to pursue that, then we ought to get that on the agenda for an upcoming meeting. Mr. Severing, did you have a comment?
I did. Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to just express appreciation to the public, the citizens, we wish that all of these dates lined up. We have to respond to the county back in July about a worst case scenario. And was it June?
June 1st.
June 1st. Thank you. Appreciate that. And then we're waiting for that last sales tax number.
2 of them.
Two, oh, that would be two, huh? Yeah, that would be the two. And so there's these dates, they don't line up perfectly. And so it can sound a lot, but once we're able to completely get everything as far as revenues, it just helps so much immensely. So I would prefer myself, I know it doesn't sound like a huge, but I would prefer to be at the 5%, only because it does give us a little bit of a wiggle room, but that's just my recommendation, but
Well, we'll see what the council motions here. Just a moment. Anything else? Council questions, discussion? You'd like to have? Councilmember
I'm
Watson?
just going to say thank you to the mayor as well. I know he's put in a lot of time as well as Peter has. So we're grateful for all the eyes that John, all the people who have helped put this together. It's a lot
It's
of
surely
work.
been a team effort, and John called me, I think first thing this morning. Apparently he didn't get much sleep last night either, so trying to finalize this. So thank you for those comments. So at this point in time, I would be looking for a motion from the council to approve ordinance 2025-20, which is adopting the budget and tax rate for the fiscal year. John, could you calculate what that rate would be? It sounds like the council majority is leaning towards 4.5%. So could you calculate that rate so we could include it in the motion?
I got 4.5.
Huh?
If you want 4.5, it's 0.01363.
Okay, Dave, thank you. Does John concur with that?
Yeah, I texted that to Dave.
That wasn't me doing.
Oh, wait a minute. So Dave
I'll
was
do
taking,
math.
wait a minute. Now the truth's
Come
coming
from
out.
his mind.
Yeah, Dave was,
Dave's
so
not
good.
doing math over here.
so could you repeat that for the council member who's making the motion?
Yeah, so if you want to do 4.5, it's 0.001363.
Okay, 0.001363.
Yes, sir.
If the motion passes at 4.5%. Are you prepared in case it passes at 5%, Dave?
No.
You better get in contact with John.
Then I think it's. I think
It's going to pass at 4.5%. I just have a feeling.
Oh, well, yeah, it makes you guys look really good. Okay. Do we have a motion?
Mayor, I have a motion. I move that we approve ordinance 2025-20, which is a 4.5% property tax increase, which equates to 0.001363.
Okay.
Second.
I have a second by Councilmember Pulver. Is there any further discussion on the issue? We'll then start with Councilmember Barker and just work our way down this way on the vote. Councilmember Barker,
Yes.
Councilmember Dowpaz.
Yes.
Councilmember Watson,
Yes.
Councilmember Pulver,
Yes.
Councilmember Severing.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, council, for your work on that. We'll move on to item number 5. This will be presented by our city recorder, Ryan Santoro, who will give us a overview of the election so we can canvass it properly according to law. Go ahead, Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, I'm going to present the canvass report for the 2025 municipal primary election. The number of ballots counted was 3,988. The number of ballots rejected was 32. The total number of votes cast was 4,020. There were no provisional ballots cast. Ballots mailed to voters was 12,834. Ballots cast was 4,020, which is 31%. Ballots not returned by voters, 8,814, which is 69%. Undeliverable ballots came in at 14. There were 18 ballots that were returned past the deadline. Signatures did not match the voter record, came in at 3. Returned unsigned, 6. Empty envelope, 1. Signed by someone other than the voter, 3. Ballots returned with no envelope, 1. The results, which are also available by link on our website, are as follows. Ryan Barker received 43.31% of the vote for mayor. Phil Swanson received 30% or 30.89%. JD Dowpaz for city council at large got 35.77%. Tara Carney, 18.71%. Kevin Burns, 17.44%, and Zach Ward, 14.72%. And that is the primary election results for 2025. Congratulations to those candidates who are moving on to the general election. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Any further questions for our city recorder? I remember writing a message for the magazine when we had it and stated, really, the city council mayor is really elected by those who don't vote. Because there's far more that don't vote. So your council and mayor is elected by a minority of those who have the ability to vote. Thus, you're elected by those who don't vote. So I would hope that we, in the general election, we get a better turnout than the 30, what was that again?
The total voter turnout was 31.32%. We can do a
31
lot better than that, North Ogden.
Yeah, 31.32%. So a lot of room for improvement. So there we go. All right, council, do you have any questions?
So we spent 25 grand on that. And if you do the math, that's the ones that didn't mail it back in basically threw out money that they had provided already. So
Yeah, I think
something to think about, I guess.
Was it $42,000 or $47,000 the county's charging us for the election this year?
Sure.
Yeah, it's a lot of money, but yeah,
It's 42,000 for both elections, Mayor.
42,000. So
Close.
yeah, comes right out of the city budget, which won't be there next year. So you won't have to worry about that. Okay. So with that, if there's not any more questions, I would seek a motion to approve the results of the 2025 municipal primary election as canvassed by our city recorder. Do we have such a motion?
Mayor, I move that we approve the results, the canvass of the primary elections here held in North Ogden.
Thank you, Councilmember Severing. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Pulver. Any further discussion? Once again, this is a roll call vote. We'll start with Councilmember Barker,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalpaz,
Yes.
Councilmember Watson,
Yes.
Councilmember Pulver,
Yes.
Councilmember Severing.
Yes.
That motion passes unanimously to accept the results of our primary election. Now move on to item number 6. This will be presented by Scott Hess, who's our Community and Economic Development Director. And this is a discussion or action to approve an agreement with Penny Pilot Software.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I actually have a representative from Penny here with us, Casey Elliott, who will help do a short presentation on this, but just as a primer on the software, the makers of the Penny app have contacted North Ogden. Their residents of North Ogden would like to use our city as a pilot city in putting this application out. The Penny app it's a centralized platform where all information for the city, that'd be website, code, social media, can be stored in one location. They still would exist. You can go out and reach them independently. And then using an artificial intelligence application, it can answer questions directly in plain natural language. So we're going to have some examples of questions that you find, but if it's, what day is my garbage day? Or where do I get a fence permit? Or how tall can a fence be? What are my landscaping restrictions? Those kinds of questions can be asked into the Penny app. The Penny app will go out and scrub through our website, social media, and other resources and populate an answer for the public. This app's being continuously improved. Actually, from the first time that we saw it to now, it's continued to see refinements. And the Penny pilot program would be no cost, but the expected cost for this, should we continue, is approximately $1 per customer. So they have that pricing structure is a little bit fluid right now, would be decided upon before, of course, the city goes into contract with them. So for this, I'd like to turn it over to Casey Elliott. And ultimately, the recommendation for the council today is that you receive information from the Penny app, consider the information shown, and then assist us in determining if there's value proposition in the free 1-year trial of this, and whether or not we'd want to move that forward to the mayor's signature. So with that, Casey, I turn it over to you.
Thank you. Hello, Mayor, Council. Thank you for the time tonight. So if we, I don't know if we can present on the screen here, but and kind of show you a little bit of the application. As Scott said, so I'm not a North Ogden resident, but my two partners are. Maybe. Well, I'll keep talking. We'll see if that comes up. But we have built different software applications for the last 15 years in different industries. And the last couple of years, we've been working on this challenge of communicating with residents from the city. As a resident, I think we can all relate to the struggle that we have to find information sometimes from our city. There's just a lot of it, and traditional, websites aren't always the most helpful. Oh, maybe it's. Oh, interesting.
Is that what it was? Is that even the right one? No?
Yeah, that's the right one.
I don't know why it's.
I hold my arm up, my leg
Right.
up.
Turn those rabbit ears a little bit.
I'll see if I can change that here.
Well, see, the budget went so fast, we weren't actually prepared to do this for about another hour, so.
He can try to hook up to the podium if you'd like.
Yeah,
Might
to
be
see
worth
if
a
that-
try. Any different?
Yeah. As Casey's trying to hook that up, we've actually used it as staff. So here's some answers that we've asked and how it's populated. And I wish I had these pictures, but we just screenshot it. So Ryan Nunn, our planner, asked, how do I apply for a fence permit? And Penny responds, to apply for a fence permit in North Ogden, you need to obtain a land use permit from the planning department. If your fence meets certain criteria, such as being over 3 feet in height, within a certain yard, within a site triangle, the application must be filed with the planning department on forms provided by the city. Property owners or tenants are responsible for obtaining permits. So, and then it continues. It provides the specific code number for what this is, pulling the information from. So as those codes are updated, this would be updated in real time in utilizing the software and reaching out to that. And it's accurate. So what the idea here is, or the value proposition as it's been presented to us, is that the number of times we answer the same question over and over and over for people who are calling in is significant. And that time is a sunk cost for city staff who are here. We're not, collecting a fee for that. And I know that we're paid anyways as the planning department. We're not like the building department or any of the franchise tax, water, sewer, garbage fees that are paying for their services as a whole. But by utilizing a software like this, it could potentially free up resources from our front desk staff, frontline staff, planning and building and zoning folks who generally answer these questions over and over, really, and taking away from more important work that we do. I wish that this would show because he's got examples.
That's okay. I think we can just continue to kind of talk through the functionality and how it works. It's a very simple interface. If you use ChatGPT, it's very similar to that, where you can have conversations with the AI chat. You can keep track of your past conversations, and it just answers your question directly. So as I was saying, communication's tough because it's spread out. It's on Facebook, it's on your website, it's in newsletter, it's in lots of different places. And so as a resident, a lot of times it's confusing on where do I go to get the information? Where's the single source of truth? Where's the best channel? And so our hope is to bring all of that into a centralized place and then utilize AI to answer questions directly. And then it, of course, provides references to your documentation, whether it's code or, meeting minutes or whatever it might be. There's also other functionality we're building in. Kind of the long-term vision of this is that cities don't have to use other channels like social media. That's the hope one day, is that cities say, like, enough's enough and we're not going to be beholden to the algorithm of social media. And the reach of social media is actually quite terrible when you look at the organic reach of most of the platforms, which means that it's a pay-to-play environment. It's also very noisy, and there's a lot of misinformation, and even more so now with AI. So we built in kind of a news feed functionality, which is very similar to a social media feed, as well as an events portal where you can create events and have all the details for your city events and everything going on. And then as part of this, there's a mobile app. There's the ability to send out notifications, including emergency notifications to the users on the app. So not only is it a place where residents can go to ask questions and just get immediate answers, like Scott said, reducing the number of calls and emails that you're getting about the same things over and over, but it's a place where you can have a higher level of confidence that you're going to actually reach people. Anyways, yeah, I know you guys just went through this with the fire, and reaching people it's a challenge because they're all spread out across the different channels. So that's the longer term vision and hope, is that it can be a place where you can reach your residents when it really matters.
Scott, I think if the council determines they'd like to do a test run on this, I think it'd be important to make sure that we have a focus group comprised of citizens that can give us feedback, that we specifically invite certain people, a wide group of different people, so that we can get their feedback. I think we all like AI, but we also know there's a lot of hallucinates
Yeah.
there and gives false information. I don't know how you've prevented that, but it would be good for, I think, a group of staff and residents if we can get that participation to give us feedback.
Yes, and that is our hope as well, is that in addition to you guys being able to test it internally, to open it up to a small group of residents, absolutely, we'd love that feedback.
Yeah, of course, as Councilmember Pulver would say, we've got to have cell phone coverage to get information,
You
right?
circled that.
Because we couldn't get information where we were. So,
Yeah.
Council, what questions do you have for Casey? Councilmember Watson?
Thank you. Do you have to have the app to be able to get the notifications or to get any information?
You don't have to have the app. You can just create an account on any device, a computer, your phone. There is a mobile app you can download from the App Store.
Okay, and then on the notifications, is that pretty frequent and kind of includes everything, or is there a way that you can say, I want to hear about this, but not about that?
Yeah, so I should preface this with saying that we are in beta with this. And so the core functionality that we're focusing on is the AI chat and making sure that it doesn't hallucinate, that it's accurately giving answers. The content management side, making sure we're managing the content, and then the feed, being able to just post your updates and your events and things. Right now, you can create a post that sends out an emergency notification or an important, so it's either an important post or an emergency post that sends out a notification. So right now, it's really just for emergency notifications. In the future, we'll have, of course, a full set of options where users can customize their notifications.
I love that idea. I know that we've had some residents complain about not getting the emails that they sign up for to get automatically. And so just to have another route of way to, say they want to select fill me in on city council updates, then if that notification were available, I think that would be a great way to communicate.
Absolutely.
But is it truly a free trial? And if we don't feel like it resonates with us at the end, we can just say no, or is this a contract for another year in addition?
No, absolutely. No, it's really just month to month, honestly. There is no cost. The value to us is that we get some users and we get some feedback. And so we're even willing to work very closely with the city and getting the information in there and making sure that, it's getting in. So our hope is that it's not any burden to the city and that the city can actually just use it and start asking questions and getting answers. And then one comment on the cost. We're still kind of working that out, honestly. Like $1 a resident is something we just sort of like plucked out of the air of like, okay, if this is going to replace different things that are costing cities X amount, and is the value there? But that being said, like we're still figuring that out. And so it could end up being less than that. It could end up being a little bit more modular. So if a city says, well, we want this piece of it, but not this piece, then we're kind of exploring the different approaches there.
Thank you.
Councilmember Dalpaz.
Yeah, I think it sounds great to pilot this out and see how it works out for the city. I do think we would have to have a huge focus on, this is probably something that the staff will have to focus on more than anything, is to try to notate what kind of hours and savings is coming out of it. That will probably be a tall task, I'm guessing, but as best as possible, it seems like Scott most likely will be kind of the main point of contact as I read the staff report. And so just to make sure that he has a way of at least approximating the amount of hours, man hours that have been saved, because that will help us make the decision when it comes to it next year. If we saved $1 per user for the whole year, that's enough to make the investment. So that's just something to keep in mind. But I do think it sounds valuable, especially if it truly is a free commitment throughout that year, and it gives us plenty of time to decide if it works well. To Mayor's point, if we, and I believe the staff report covered this, but if we do open it up to a small number of residents, that would work really well, because those residents, they will be able to, they're going to say if they like it or they don't like it. And they will be able to guide us in the direction, because they are ultimately the end users in my mind for this. So if it doesn't go well with them, it probably won't go well with us. And so, yeah, I just think that it has potential, and appreciate your presentation.
Yeah, my point was we get a wide spectrum of people, a good base of feedback from our residents. So Councilmember Pulver.
And I think it needs to be, the demographic needs to be ginormous from, I'll say teenagers, but people that are young enough that they have a question about the city, and then people that may or may not have a cell phone, I mean, I know my mom does, but she doesn't live here. But anyway, but I do think to and maybe someone here too, but I know Susan Kilborn is just itching for this. And
Yeah, you must have got a text.
what's that? No, not yet. I'm sure I will. And then Brenda Ashdown too. I think both of them from both sides of the spectrum. But anyway, I think this is great. I think the only question I really had was, I'm assuming it's only public data that you're pulling, as opposed to anything that's
correct.
I know there's some sharing, and I know Casey probably worked some of this too. Or not Casey, spacing. Too many employees running around my head. IT.
Bryce.
Bryce, thank you. Can kind of
Yeah.
bridge that to figure out where what is, but
that's actually one of the advantages of this approach, even over like a Chat GPT, which will search the internet, and that feels great because it's so generalized, but it's actually a disadvantage when you're trying to answer very specific questions that you want to be accurate, because you can't control what it looks at, what websites it's referencing. And so it really only references what you give it. And so if you don't want it answering a question, like it won't, and you haven't given it that, it won't answer it.
I guess the only other option, or the only other issue maybe, would be, because I know some minutes aren't searchable, and I don't know how that would work, but
your city is actually a very interesting use case because of the way you do your PDFs. It's been good for us because we've had to use, it's called OCR, optical, recognition techniques to read your PDFs. Okay. So
yeah, me too. I don't like it either, but
yeah, it's good. But we're doing it. We're ingesting it, and we're able to read it.
Cool.
I did want to point out, Councilmember Pulver, that people over 70 do have cell phones.
I was making my
point that
mom
out.
as an example.
Those old people, we're still trying to figure out how to use it, but we do have it.
It's a phone. That's all it is, right?
Yeah. I think too, before the council makes a decision, I'd like to hear from staff, because frankly, I didn't know Scott had a lot of extra time to put into this, so it's probably going to be a team effort. And I don't know if John has any comments, or Ryan, Dave, anybody that's had a chance to maybe look at this on their input, because it is going to take some effort to to get it up and going. But Councilmember Watson did you have?
Yeah, I
anything?
just had another question. Is this a separate website or app that someone would have to know about and go to specifically? So then in that case, we need to do some kind of media or marketing to get everyone aware of this site and that they need to go specifically to, or is there a way to like push it out on our website right at the top, connect it? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, it's a great question.
Mhm.
Right now, it is a separate app. We are starting work on a version of this that could sit on top of a city's website. The reason we didn't start there is because the vision is to have a truly centralized place where all the information can live. Basically replacing existing CMS, platforms and traditional websites, social media, like I mentioned. But we're understanding that it may take a while for cities to get there. Cities may not want to just flip the whole table from day one. And so with that, we're looking at developing kind of a chatbot that just sits on top of the website. The caveat with that is that, and you can look at other chatbot services out there, they're just not that good because you're scraping the website, you're trying to scrape documents from the website, and there's all sorts of points of failure along that path that make it tricky to get good answers. So the best way to do it is to just do it natively from the app, but we are looking at that.
I think there's been some good questions, and I don't know, Council, how you feel about if the staff report could serve as an implementation plan as you see it. I always like to see, for something to be successful, implementation. Obviously, planning is a big part of if things are going to be successful. So I don't know if you feel like the staff report is adequate to have an implementation plan, or if you'd like to see that before you make a decision. Seems to be no risk other than, if we don't implement it properly or we don't have the resources needed to make it happen, then it probably won't. So just a thought. I don't know how you feel about an implementation plan versus the staff report. Councilmember Pulver?
I agree. I guess there's something to be said about knowing what you to expect ahead of time. In the end, I know I really appreciate what this would do. At the same time, is it going to be worth the cost? And that's the thing, is that just like in a company, you have a make buy plan. Either you make it yourself or you go out and buy it. And that's the same type of thing here, is that if we already have a website that we're maintaining, if we already have this, that, and the other, do we add something else to try to, and there's no guarantee that it's going to expand our communication. I agree it's going to be it would be an awesome thing, but at the same time, we have to take into effect that, people have to care too. That's the other thing that worries me, because there might be a select few that would do it, but then if the cost is being based on how many people are actually in the city versus who's using it, I don't know. That's just my thoughts on that.
I think we could get some measurements.
Yeah.
On that, we could identify some matrix that would show, is this making communication better? Are we getting more people involved? Some metrics of that nature. But it doesn't seem like there's a huge downside other than the resources needed to implement it to make sure it's properly given a fair chance. So.
Yeah, and I will mention in that report, we kind of outline in the pilot proposal a basic implementation plan. And again, our goal is we want to make it as easy as possible for you as a pilot city, which means we're not going to be like, hey, you guys need to go and find all your information. The nice thing is most of the information that we would ingest is already publicly available on the website, right, or in different places. So we can kind of manage the ingestion process, which is the most labor intensive.
Yeah. Not to challenge you, but having been in the business world for 40 years, I'm not sure anyone ever came and said, this is going to be difficult for you. We're going to make this real easy. It's not going to take a lot of time. So just my experience, not to say that,
Totally.
there. So council, what questions do you have? Where would you like to go from here? On the agenda is the to approve a pilot software situation, or we can do that with subject to an approved implementation plan. From our side, we know you have one. We just need to make sure that we have one.
Got it.
Because if it's not properly implemented, something that may be very good won't happen. So, it's Councilmember Severing.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think this is really an awesome idea. My mom is 75 and she uses AI.
Does she have a cell phone?
She has a cell phone.
Cool.
In fact,
least
she
I
does a
keep
better
mine-
job at it than I do.
Keep mine for 5 more years. That's good.
There you go. So I think it's a great thing. I would, of course, I'm not going to be on council when this concludes, the pilot concludes, but I think there is some value in that small group.
Yeah.
Because and I know you said that this, $1 per citizen was tentative, but if we find out that there's a lot more individuals using it than we thought, then perhaps that makes it a good thing.
Yeah.
But thank you. Seems like a great option for the upcoming generation.
Thank you.
So, Council, where would you like to go from here? What do you want to do? Any more questions, comments?
For John Call, maybe.
John, do you have,
No, I had a question for him.
go ahead.
Just the fact that is this how do I say this without sounding obtuse, but is this an effective use of staff to go and do this, and do the people that need to do it have the bandwidth? And I guess that's my worry, is that there's a lot of high priority things that are going out there. I shouldn't, not air quotes. There are a lot of high priority things going on, making sure that, Scott's got a lot of stuff on his plate too. And I guess, is there people that have enough room on their plate to go do this?
Yeah, I think that's why we need an implementation
Yeah.
plan to know.
Right.
So, John, you have a question from Councilmember Pulver, if you'd like to answer that.
So I would probably say, and this is to the mayor's point, some sort of a staged implementation plan where if the council thinks they might want to try it, then we want to start with a very small group that kind of does a feasibility on what metrics are going to be measuring. For example, we already have Nextdoor and TextMyGov that we've been using. They're not highly utilized. They're obviously not as complicated as Penny is. And so we just want to try and start evaluating. And then, when we talk about those focus groups and trying to get, based on what we've seen, we really need like 200 people to participate to get a good statistical analysis. And managing that would be a huge thing. So we'd want to know there was a good upside. Bryce, for example, is pretty tapped out on capability. And Scott, with a lot of the stuff that's coming down the pipeline that just from requests and stuff is a little tapped out. So we're starting to this sort of a process is going to involve the leadership of the city. It's not something that would be frontline staff driven, and so that is the group that typically has the least amount of time available. So but in the end, it may allow us to focus our resources in a different way and free up time for some of those and the frontline staff to make our lives easier. So I don't know. It's hard to know what it's going to turn into, other than I would probably agree with the mayor's plan of start small and maybe take the baby step on should we move forward with an in-depth review from staff.
Can I just make one comment on the implementation? So the nature of this is, it's really for like your frontline staff, for example. It's as easy as opening it and using it. If they've used ChatGPT or they've Googled anything, it's literally that easy. So that won't require any work. And that's something that can be used day one. When it comes to organizing like a focus group, yeah, that can be some work, but that also can come much later into the pilot.
I did receive a text from Susan Kilborn, who volunteered to help us with this, and she's pretty energetic. Maybe she could work on the focus group and see where we go from there. Anything else you'd like to add?
No.
Any other questions, council? Where would you like to go here? Our agenda item tonight asks for approval on agreement with Penny to have a pilot software situation. Do you want to proceed to that level, or would you like to work on the implementation plan, or just move ahead and include in the motion that it would have an implementation plan that would be approved as part of the go-ahead? Would you like to do, Councilmember Watson?
I'll take a shot at making a motion. I make a motion that we approve the agreement with Penny Pilot Software, assuming that it's a free trial and that we can figure out an implementation plan so that we can find success.
Do we have a second to that
Sorry.
motion?
I second that.
Thank you, Councilmember Severing. Are there any further questions? Councilmember Dowpaz?
So, just a question. If we get to the point where staff and leadership of the city tries to put together that implementation plan and is unsuccessful, we'll probably bring it back to the council and get back to Penny and say, we're just gonna call it good and you can go on your way type of thing. Is that what you're envisioning?
Yeah, I think the council ought to see that implementation plan and then make sure we have the resources allocated to make it happen.
Yeah.
We don't feel we have the resources or.
Yeah,
the
because
evidence.
I'm good with Councilwoman Watson's motion. I'm just trying to figure out that exact happening, that if the so I would say if a implementation plan isn't figured out within a few months, we could bring it back on the table, and just so it's fair to them to say, okay, we might not proceed.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah,
Yes.
we hope for success, but we surely wouldn't want them to waste a lot of resources if we're not interested. So,
Okay.
yeah, I think that would be something we'd like to do. Did you have a comment, Councilmember Pulvis? Oh, that was
What he said.
what he said? Okay. Any further questions or discussions? All right, then I would seek a roll call vote on this since it's an agreement. And we'll start with you, Councilmember Barker. And as just a reminder, there are no agreement numbers anymore.
Yes.
Councilmember Dowpaz?
Yes.
Councilmember Watson?
Yes.
Councilmember Pulver?
Yes.
And Councilmember Severing?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously. So we'll look forward to Scott, I guess, gathering the troops for an implementation plan to make sure we're giving it an adequate chance for success. We'll now move on to item number 7. This is also Mr. Hess, our Community and Economic Development Director, and this is the discussion or an action to approve the Washington Boulevard Big O Tire sidewalk, either a reduction or a deferral request, or I guess if the motion's not passed, I'll leave it as it is, which I think is 10 feet, right? Okay, just wanted to clarify that. Go ahead, Scott.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. And we do have Jason Westbrook here with Big O Tires to represent the item as well if he has, or if the council would like to hear from him. The Big O Tire site plan was approved at Planning Commission on July 16th, 2025. Just as a note, site plans are an administrative item. The Planning Commission and staff's job is to administer the code as it currently is. The Planning Commission is given very limited scope of any changes to the code. They're very specific in the code, and otherwise they're an administrative body, not a legislative body. With that said, Dave had the Big O sidewalk site plan pulled up, and in it there is a reduction in overall landscaping that still maintains the 10% as required by the commercial zone, and has a net increase of 7 parking stalls, which Big O has identified would be beneficial for their business as they continue to grow. 2 points of, 2 notes here is, one, the current detention basin and the improved detention basin are in the UDOT public right-of-way. So as City Engineer Eric Casperson and myself met on site, we've recommended that a right-of-way encroachment permit be explored with UDOT to assure that the improvements as shown can be located within the UDOT right-of-way of Washington Boulevard. And then second, the sidewalk as currently shown next down to the existing 4.5 or 5 foot sidewalk that is out in front of the site right now. With this one, the council as the legislative body is the only authority who can grant a deferral or amendment to the code. The public works standard for Washington Boulevard is a 10-foot wide sidewalk, or it operates as a shared use, multi-use path on both sides of the sidewalk, and can be reduced in certain circumstances down to 8 feet, but the reference says specifically in the city standards that sidewalk widths less than 10 feet may be applicable on a case-by-case basis, but in no case less than 8 foot in width. So city staff in administering the code has recommended the 10 foot. Planning Commission had some conversation about potentially allowing that to go down to 8 foot. But I think that it would be the burden of the applicant to show why we would reduce that, either physical constraints or other constraints on site. And then the last thing that staff will say is that just to the south of this for Village of Prominence Point against the Express Car Wash is an existing 10-foot wide sidewalk. And then on this map that you're seeing just north of 1900 North, you see the row of trees there, just on the left side of the aerial image, if Dave can hover the mouse over it. That's the beginning of the Coldwater Creek. The Coldwater Creek Trail. And that's one of the applications that received RDA funding to work with Lock It Up Storage to construct a trailhead, signage, and a trail along 1900. So there will be an ultimately there will be a trail along Coldwater Creek that's public facing. Between that, the existing 10-foot connected sidewalk, and the fact that we'll have several thousand new residents between Village of Prominence Point, the Freedom Court, and the annexed area for West State. Over the next several years, staff feels that this is an appropriate area to have a multi-use path run the length of Washington Boulevard and get people up to Kurtz Plaza and the cannery and the other commercial areas that we have. So staff is not recommending the sidewalk deferral in this case, but also leaves it to the legislative body of the city council to ultimately make that determination.
Scott, just one question. The sidewalk in front of the Lock It Up Storage where they're going to improve, that's scheduled to be 10 feet?
It is, yeah.
Everything along there?
Right. The preliminary, and that's phase 2 of Lock It Up's plan. So phase 1 was the storage buildings up on 2000, and they've constructed the sidewalk on 2000 North. And then their phase 2, which is their commercial building right here on the corner, does that show a 10-foot wide sidewalk along the length of their property on Washington.
What other questions do you have for Scott before we see if Mr. Westbrook would like to comment? Mr. Dalpas?
Did I hear it right that you kind of said that code has written in that it can be reduced to 8 feet in certain circumstances? Did I hear that correctly? And what is usually the justification for allowing it down from 10 feet to 8 feet? And then follow on to that, I just don't remember the planning commissions. I watched the meeting, but I can't remember where they pulled 8 feet from. Like, I just can't, out of thin air. Okay. I was trying to understand where they selected that amount. And so if you can speak to that.
Yep. So the first is, I'm not the city engineer, so I won't speak for Eric on the case-by-case basis for why we would narrow it. That I just don't know. It's typically physical constraints. Like, we can't physically put it here. So that would be right-of-ways that are constrained, and you've already got a back of curb sidewalk and there just isn't room to do it. That might be one. In this case, you have an old stormwater inlet box that currently exists on UDOT property, and depending on what water is going into that and what water is going out, that might be a physical constraint that you wouldn't be able to move or engineer out of its location. I'm not sure. The 8 foot is referenced in the city's standard drawings. So this is the public works improvement drawings that the city uses for really everything, curb cuts, water pipes, sewer pipes, stormwater infrastructure. And for the Washington Boulevard, 2700 North and Monroe, there is a streetscape standard that has been identified. And that streetscape standard is codified and adopted by ordinance here with this body. And then Eric's charge and my charge as staff is to administer that as if it's a code, essentially. Within that code, it just says sidewalk width less than 10 feet may be applicable on a case-by-case basis, but in no case less than 8 foot in width. So there's not a qualifier for that other than we would look at it on a case by case basis.
Mhm.
And you pick up new sidewalk. I mean, I want to point out that Washington Boulevard, the entire length of the city, except for some small unincorporated pieces, has a sidewalk between 4 and 5 feet, depending on the age of the sidewalk. So there is a double-sided sidewalk on Washington Boulevard, but major site plan amendments, subdivisions, and improvements to sites are all ways that the city gets sidewalks. So, I like to say that cities don't really build cities, developers build cities, and then they turn those improvements over to the city to maintain in perpetuity. And this is one of those cases where the applicant is making a significant site improvement and upgrade, in which case you bring it all up to code. So that's everything from Americans with Disabilities Act accessibility, parking stall requirements, all of the Title 11 land use code requirements, which references the public works standards and kicks in the 10-foot wide sidewalk.
Okay, thank you, Scott. I'm sure Mr. Westbrook would just like a decision one way or the other. It's kind of been going on for some while, but just if I could issue a word of caution. I think Scott had a point if there's physical constraints. Otherwise, if we get into picking and choosing who has 8 and who has 10 with no legitimate reason, that ends up causing long-term problems because it's based upon, how the council's feeling that night, or do they like the applicant or not? I don't know why it's in there other than the physical restraints you talked about, but anyway, Councilmember Watson,
Can I
did you
just
have
ask more of Mr. Hess before we continue with the applicant?
betcha.
Thank you. I have a few questions. I listened to the planning commission meeting and they made it sound like they could work around several of the other requirements for code updates. Is that something that the planning commission can and did go ahead and give the thumbs up, or is that coming to us as well?
Well, I presented the item remotely, or I was remote on the meeting, and Ryan Nunn, our staff planner, is the one who presented this site plan. And John, I'm going to let John correct me if I'm wrong, but I'll just say my personal opinion is that Planning Commission may have said some things that weren't really within their realm or purview to say, such as our city engineer can go out on site and maybe talk about how to fix your detention basin. And that's really not the responsibility of our city engineer. We are responsive to applications. We don't go out and help design anything for anybody. So on site, our city engineer was really careful to say that exact same thing. The 8-foot was kind of, pulled out of the air. It wasn't based on any recommendation. Our city engineer wasn't there to provide a recommendation. So, and I'm trying to think if there's anything else that the planning commission said that
It was
obligated staff.
some of the things they decided was that they only needed one light pole, that the trash enclosure could include a chain link gate, but that the storage containers could stay and act as solid sides for the trash enclosure, and that the ADA stalls would need to be verified.
So the storage containers that have been there longer than 10 years, which I think kicks in the state code that we can't require somebody to abate something that has been not enforced for more than 10 years. And we've got a reference to state code that we can help you out with on that one. Chain link is a permitted material in front of a garbage enclosure. So those are all good to go. We do always double check the ADA standards before we allow somebody to stripe it, but that's not anything the planning commission has to see specifically. We do some of that administratively. And then it was
the light pole.
Yep, the light pole. There's a physical constraint on the site that only one light pole at the spacing would even physically fit.
And then my other question was, so when you read the code, you said 2 times 8 to 10 feet. So if we were to say, just for example, if it were to be 8 or 9, somewhere within that 8 to 10, then would we need this deferral, this exemption, or would it fall within it and we wouldn't have to?
Yeah, if the council said we support 8 feet and that's the case by case basis, then we would just move forward with the 8 feet.
So does that count though as this exception to the rule, this deferral? No, it doesn't. Okay.
I think a deferral would be leaving it as is, not having to widen it to 8 or 10 feet, which I think
I
we
see.
found as we
Okay.
have done a lot of deferrals that come back to bite us, frankly.
And the last deferral we did on Washington Boulevard was a site located centrally between 2300 and 2550 North on the west side. It was the Wangs Guards and Seacrest buildings. There were no connecting 10-foot sidewalks on either side or plans for capital improvement dollars to go in to widen that sidewalk. So that one had received a deferral based on the fact that there was no connecting and nothing within 150 feet, no plans to connect a wider sidewalk. And then that site plan ultimately didn't move forward anyways.
I thought of one last question. Is there any way that it can take up part of the park strip, or is that not allowed?
That's
Expanding.
up to, so everything in the park strip and where the sidewalk is located now, and they put the picture down, but that's all within the UDOT right of way. So that's a UDOT Region 1 decision on what can be encroached, where, what direction basically they would want that
And we
sidewalk.
wouldn't even know where they would, okay.
No, we typically sit in on those meetings and we can help make recommendations. From a staff standpoint, it really doesn't matter to us.
Okay.
We want to maintain snow storage on Washington Boulevard, so widening the sidewalk to the west would make sense to us because you retain that existing snow storage in the park strip.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Pulver?
So we did the update to the right-hand turn lane. Did we increase that to 10 feet?
No, so the sidewalk width increase stops at 2700 north. So it's 2700 north south
Okay.
to the city border. But we did do it in front of Walker Cinema and the Animal Hospital when we went from future 1500. We went from, at the time, the city's boundary up to 1700. The city built a 10-foot wide sidewalk on the east side of Washington Boulevard.
And the current sidewalk there in front of Big O is 5, right?
I'd have to measure. It's 4 to 5.
4 to 5,
It
okay.
depends on the age the sidewalk was put in. The old standard was 4, current standard is 5.
Okay, and you stated that if there's any major improvement, everything has to be brought up to code. Is that what you stated? Okay.
Any other questions? Council, would you like to hear from Mr. Westbrook? Jason, would you like to comment?
Hi, Jason Westbrook, owner of Big O Tires and resident of North Ogden. I guess my frustration with this is the whole process. I started on this in February of 24. And I've been doing this since February of 24. This has taken so much of my time that could be spent on my business. And it's just, it feels like I'm just getting hit around like a tennis ball here. I go to planning commission, I get told one thing. I come to city council, I get told another thing. I get told another thing by staff. And that's where my frustration lies. When after planning commission, I asked to meet with Eric and Scott, not necessarily for Eric to draw up my site plan, not for Eric to do anything, but to kind of give me guidance on what I should do as far as the sidewalk. That was when Scott suggested to me for me to put in for the deferral. I'm here because Scott suggested for me to put in for a deferral. Otherwise, I would have just gone with it. The problem is now I've wasted more time on it and my time right now is more valuable than money to me. I don't have a lot of time. I am working from 7 till 7, 5 days a week, if not longer. So the time is more valuable to me than anything. So now I've spent more time doing a deferral that then I get a text from Scott saying that they're not backing it. Well, I don't understand it. I'm just trying to get our site plan approved. I turned this site plan in October of last year. It's been almost a year that this site plan has been sitting there. I've been going back and forth between city council, planning commission, and the staffing. If I need to put in a 10-foot sidewalk, I'm okay with putting in a 10-foot sidewalk. The problem that I have with it is then I got to go back to my engineer and pay more money. I'm already out of pocket $15,000 on this site plan, and I'm just sitting here with nothing. I just feel like I'm getting batted back and forth, and I am just so frustrated with this process. If we do decide that we're at the 10-foot sidewalk, I'm okay with that. My only question is, how long is it until all of Washington is like that? Because they're saying, okay, major changes to your plan. I'm not changing anything on that side 15 feet. There is a 15 feet buffer between what I'm changing to where the sidewalk is, besides asphalt. So I'm not changing anything in that area to necessarily mean that I'm even close to where I can do anything with that sidewalk. I will do it if that's going to be the position that North Ogden takes. But I'm kind of confused because I get told, well, we're not going to put 10-foot sidewalks in all the way down the west side. Then I get told, okay, well, now we are. But if there's certain places on Washington that aren't going to do it and have a deferral, then where is this being applied equally?
That's the problem when you start making exceptions. People ask, what's equitable application? That's why I don't favor deferrals. And Scott, let me just ask this question because I think from Mr. Westbrook's point, it is a long time. What does he need? If the city decides tonight on the sidewalk, can we get this done? I mean, what are we waiting for? Is there anything else?
He has an approved site plan, and that approved site plan includes, in the notice of decision, meet the requirements of the city engineering memo, which is mostly related to stormwater and the widths and decorative light pole, one site amenity of a direct decorative light pole, trash enclosure location designs should be submitted as part of the building permit, ADA stalls submitted prior to issuance of building permit, and the sidewalk along Washington Boulevard widened to be between 8 to 10 feet with city engineer recommendation and meet North Ogden City Public Works standards. So if the
So
but
what
meeting
what
on-
does that mean to
Yeah,
him?
So it means that these are the marching orders to an approvals. Planning Commission has approved the site plan, meet these conditions, and you're go. When we met on site, it was my understanding that the detention basin as it's currently designed will encroach into the sidewalk. There won't physically be room to put the 8-foot sidewalk in without a redesign of the detention basin. So I recommended to Jason that the path forward, if you want to defer the sidewalk, is to go to city council. That's your only path forward. That wasn't with any sort of like, staff thinks you should get a deferral. It's just, this is a pathway forward, essentially. And between that and discussions of the city council, we were asked to put this on the agenda and have put it on the agenda. Looking at it, even just 10,000-foot view, it's really difficult for staff to say this is an area where we should defer the sidewalk. It has a direct connection as well as a connection to Coldwater Creek Trail. So to not blindside an applicant, I contacted Jason and said this is the decision of the staff.
I think I heard him say he's willing to do a 10-foot sidewalk, which is, I guess, going to go in front of the Dan Nixon project and is on the south side. So if the council were to say, okay, we're going to go with a 10-foot sidewalk, is that?
Yeah, he's good.
He's good?
Yeah, there's no, just meet those.
I mean, UDOT can't say, oh, we don't want you to put the detention basin on our easement?
That, I won't say what UDOT will or won't permit. There's still an encroachment permit that needs to get.
But that's up to UDOT, right?
It's up to UDOT.
Okay. Council, what other questions do you have? Councilmember Watson?
So would he not need to get a new site plan approval because the one that he currently turned in has the deferral involved in it? Or does your plan have 8-foot sidewalks?
It has nothing in, my site plan is changing nothing on the sidewalk. I would have to redo my site plan. I would I'd have to pay my engineer to draw up a new site plan to include that. We weren't doing anything with the sidewalk because we're not going anywhere near that sidewalk.
So then would it have to be submitted for reapproval if he?
I wouldn't ask him to have a Gardner engineered redrawn site plan. What I would do is, my recommendation would be submit this to UDOT, talk about what the sidewalk width will be. We can discuss how it'll be and redline it and give it back to us. I don't think their engineer needs to, you don't need to spend money on engineering to redraw it.
Wouldn't I need that in order for the contractor to go ahead with the bill?
It's a line on a map, so I don't think it comes with an elevation drawing. So I would say no. I would say you choose east side or west side of the existing sidewalk based on UDOT Region 1's right-of-way engineer, where they want it to go and how it affects your stormwater, and draw that in and go. And we don't need a whole lot of, you can do it now based on the site plan approval. The site plan approval says, go forward, and these are the recommendations.
As far as the handicap goes, they just didn't mark those on the, they were there. I mean, the checkered lines are there and everything, but they didn't mark the handicap. So they've corrected that.
Thanks. I just had another question. Jason, would you be able to get more parking if it was a 8-foot sidewalk versus a 10-foot sidewalk? You're not
It's
doing
not
any
gonna affect
construction over there
anything for
anyway.
the sidewalk, no. That area is not gonna be anything. We went to get the drive aisle to go through there, but it's not picking up any parking there.
Okay. So it really wouldn't affect your plan as far as what you can do on the parking lot.
I was
Whether-
worried that it was gonna affect our detention or our green space. But then when we were looking over at Planning Commission, Gardner had actually made miscalculations on their green space, and we actually found more green space there. So they corrected that, and they corrected the ADA stalls
Great.
at that time.
I think Scott mentioned that you meet the green space requirement.
Yeah.
Councilmember-
Yeah, we were worried about cutting in with the sidewalk, whether that would take away, and we
Right.
wouldn't be, but.
Councilmember Dalpass.
I'm feeling like we're going to have to recommend that we go by the standard of 10 foot. But I would highly advise that we take this and Jason, this sucks that it has gone the way that it has. It clearly hasn't gone as smoothly as you would have hoped, but I'm hoping that we could take it more as a learning experience where, you know, Scott, when you're, okay, I don't want to act like I'm advising you how to do your job because I'm not a professional in your trade. But what I was going to say is when we're advising people like Mr. Westbrook, we could say, hey, by the way, there's a 10-foot requirement on sidewalks. And don't even mention that there's a deferral process. And if they ask about a deferral process, say, it's a kind of a 1 in a million type of chance. You know, make it very clear that it's difficult to get a deferral. So that's where I'm leaning right now. And Jason, I just want to say I'm sorry that it's felt this way and that it's taken so long. It is pretty crazy.
I appreciate it.
I'm sure it's more complex than we understand. I'm sure, you know, I've been around long enough to know that sometimes we hear what we want to hear, but I think maybe a good best practice would be to try to make communication in writing as much as possible. It reduces the chance for misunderstanding, so to speak. But, you know, there are out of norm circumstances. I would say this would be out of norm. That I've seen things generally move pretty smooth through our process. So obviously some complications here, but I think the important thing is that we get this done and move forward. And I think I've heard that commitment from Scott that this is the decision that needs to be made to move it forward. So Councilmember Pulver, did you have one other comment?
You're basically saying that even listening to it, and I have no real skin in the game, I was getting frustrated. So, I mean, I can't imagine what Jason's feeling, and there are complicated little things here and there, and he's just trying to figure out how to get more cars off the, road. And that was kind of the whole thing from the start. And that kind of, he's trying to do things the way we, not say told him to do, but, recommended to him to do. So it's just, I get frustrated just listening. He's like, I just want to get this done, so I feel your pain. And I'm hoping that we have the commitment that let's go do this. So I don't think we need the deferral like you're stating. So let's just go. So that's kind of where I'm headed.
Scott, I would say, if there's 5 things that need to be done, let's put those in writing and let's put dates to them.
Decision.
I feel it's a little bit inappropriate to be scolding our staff in public. If there needs to be some corrections, we can surely do that. I've always learned that there's two sides to every story. And once again, we're not going to make any progress driving through the rearview mirror. Let's move forward here. And I think the decision is, what are we going to do with the sidewalk? We can debate this all night if we want to, but all we're going to do is create more frustration for everybody. So council, do we have a motion?
Well, I just want to say real quick, I want to apologize if it appears like I was coming down on Scott for this. So that wasn't the intention. It was just trying to talk it through and
yeah, I understand. Okay.
Yes, one thing.
Yes, Councilmember Severin.
And I appreciate what you're talking about, Mayor, but I was kind of curious to know, so you're not going to incur any more expenses based on this decision?
As long as I don't have to redo the site plan, doing the sidewalk is going to be a current expense, but yeah.
But it's the right thing for the long-term of the city. I mean, that's our problem. We've done things so piecemeal in this city for so long that it's hard to put things together. Scott?
The only unknown and caveat, and we talked about this on site, is if UDOT Region 1 and their right-of-way permits approval process asks you to move the inlet box that's currently in the UDOT right-of-way and part of your detention basin, Gardner may require some engineering on that to figure out how to drain the detention basin. So we can, to staff, say, no, this will not guarantee that there are no more incurred costs from your engineer. But I would accept a redlined site plan that shows the sidewalk going from its existing 4 feet to the 10-foot and take that and scan it into the file and call the file complete.
Okay. As far as the light in the park strip, I've sent an email to Eric and I haven't heard anything back on whether that's the city's responsibility or my responsibility. As far as I know, the city was supposed to be putting them in all the way down to 1700 and it just stopped on the north side of our approach and then never finished. And so as far as I knew, those were all city lights and they were supposed to be going in. So have you?
I haven't dealt with putting a new one of those in. Every other developer in development, it's responsibility of the developer to put those in, but we can continue to look into that, see if there's any funds that the city would put in on that decorative street light.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
My only comment is that Brad D., who is a North Ogden resident, is a UDOT. Said he's not the director, but he's a at large. So that's someone to maybe reach out to if there's any issues with UDOT.
Scott and Eric have given me the contact, so.
Yeah, we've got a good relationship with UDOT with Rob White, who's the director. So, okay, anything else? Okay, now do we have a motion?
I don't want to make it because it sounds rude, but I will make a motion. I make a motion that we disapprove the deferral request that has come regarding Big O Tires for the reduction of the size of the sidewalk.
Okay, we have a motion to deny, which I think may sound okay, Councilmember Dalpaz. It's the right thing. You did well.
I second that, Mayor.
We have a second by Councilmember Severing. So the motion is denied deferral. And that would mean the 10-foot sidewalk is in play. Okay, with that, we'll have a roll call. Councilmember Barker.
I think yes is the right answer to a deny, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Councilmember Dalpaz.
Yes.
Councilmember Watson.
Yes.
Councilmember Pulver.
Yes.
And Councilmember Severing.
Yes.
Okay, motion to deny deferral is approved unanimously. Okay, item number 8. Mr. Call, this is regarding the contract with our city prosecutor.
Thank you, Mayor. So council, we have utilized Brandon Miles as our city prosecutor and also as a hearing officer for non-criminal related code enforcement issues. This would be an extension of that contract for another 5 years and an increase in the monthly rate from 1,100 a month to 1,250. That, I think that's in line with the time he puts in with especially with our upping of code enforcement. He has had quite a few more code enforcement hearings, not every month, but probably every other month he's hearing cases. And so I would say this is well worth our time. He serves us really well. You could ask the chief. He's available 24/7, both as the city prosecutor for the minor offenses, but also as the county prosecutor for the felonies and other things. Our officers can call him if they're in the middle of a altercation with an individual or an investigation, and just make sure that they're preserving the evidence in the way that works best for prosecution to get convictions for, in particular, some of the more heinous crimes that they see and deal with. So he's a great resource to the city, and I think we should approve this contract with the increase in pay.
Okay, any questions for John? Councilmember Pulver.
Assume this is in the budget already.
Yes, there doesn't need to be a change for this.
Does need to be? Is that what I heard?
There does not need to be.
Not.
Because you put it in there at 1,250, John?
Yeah, it's in, with that and with the attorney and the defender's services, we are covered.
Okay, thank you. All right. Do we have a motion to approve the contract as recommended by Mr. Call?
Hey, Mayor, I make a motion to approve the contract for city prosecutor services as presented.
Thank you, Councilmember Barker.
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Pulver. Any further questions of John or discussion? Seeing none, then we'll have a roll call vote to approve this. Councilmember Barker,
Yes.
Councilmember Dowpass.
Yes.
Councilmember Watson,
Yes.
Councilmember Pulver,
Yes.
and Councilmember Severing.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. We'll now hear from our esteemed Fire Marshal, City Council Member, and Assistant Fire Chief, Mr. Ryan Barker, regarding something that's probably pretty dear to our hearts right now, which is the Community Wildlife Preparation Plan.
So it's actually the wildfire preparedness.
I like
I noticed-
wildlife.
I know. I noticed it tonight, so I'm.
I thought we were going to get some spice in the city.
No. Do you have
Big
this?
moose.
Oh, it's in the link, but that's okay. So I can explain it. Do you want the 2-minute version or the 10-minute version?
Whatever you feel is appropriate. You're the fire.
Okay, so this is the wildfire preparedness plan. The CWPP came about in I think 2018. 2017, we had the Pole Patch Fire in Pleasant View, and Pleasant View ended up paying their portion, which was almost $250,000 for that. A year later, this came around because all these cities were paying these outrageous costs for fighting forest fires. Then when we start calling in all these outside agencies, this just says, so as a city, and the fire districts adopted this plan and presented it, the state came out and did an assessment. If we pull it up, it's okay, but it's fine. Basically, they say where our risk is as a city. And for North Ogden, our risk is over by Frank's Auto on the East Bench, and then it goes up to the Cove and I'd show you the map where we had the fire. This is a big risk. To participate in this plan, if the city so chooses, then if we have a fire, the state picks up the cost and the city's not on the hook for it. So we could deny that we don't even want to participate in this. And then if we have a fire, like 2 weeks ago, the city would pick up the cost. So it's kind of one of these things where you want to choose or not. To participate, we have to come up with about $18,000 worth of mitigation and prevention measures. Northview Fire is presenting almost $44,000 in mitigation and preparedness between North Ogden and Pleasant View. And we've already done a lot in the springtime with, I've got to make sure I'm going in the right category with prevention. We went out and went door to door, knocked on all the doors in the Cove, on the hillside over, and did home assessments for every home up there that wanted to do one. But we left door hangers and tried to talk to homeowners about the risks associated. For prevention, mitigation, I'm jumping to a different category. For the mitigation, we're proposing a chipper day in the fall for the Cove, and we're going to do one for Pole Patch as well. Our portion as a district covers North Ogden and Pleasant View. It doesn't matter which cities we do it in. It's all just one big cost. And then for preparedness, we bought the brand new brush truck, which you've seen driving around. That kind of looks like a big monster truck or Hot Wheel car. That's helping with the preparedness. And we used it last week in the big fire and it worked great. So do you have any
Okay.
questions? So just
I
need you to
do,
approve the plan.
and maybe John can chip in here. And Chief Maxwell,
Maxfield, yep.
Indicated that this has been delegated to our fire district.
Mm-hmm.
That this is, by them signing this, because we've advocated our fire protection to them, that is adequate. Am I hearing differently?
Nope, that's correct. The state would just like, they want, you can go down, clear down to page 24, I think it is. So this, when we submitted it to the state, they wanted us to bring it back to each individual city that we cover and just have you guys adopt it as well.
It's good to be safe than sorry.
Right.
I understand this was an issue Tuesday night before the fire on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Tuesday was the day the discussion was
Well,
taking
yeah,
place.
earlier. Go, let me think. Are you at the bottom? Right there.
You need a.
There's our map of risk. Everything in red is a risk. So if you can kind of see North Ogden Divide Road going up to the east right there. So, and then that yellow is the power line road. So everything between the yellow and, is where we had the fire. That's also part of our mitigation plans is cleaning up power line road so we get better access and it acts as a fire break. The other risk or hazard with cleaning up power line road is you're making it more easily accessible for other vehicles to access, which we heard about tonight. So by us making better access for us, it makes it better access for other vehicles.
But we could talk with the property owners about gating as much off as we can, because frankly, I think there's an interest on their part, because it'll be interesting to see what this does to fire insurance in the area. And the more we can mitigate and keep people off the mountain, probably the better we're at. But if the state's asking us to sign it, it's better to be safe than sorry, because I think you told me that the bill on that fire could be pretty substantial if we had to pay it on our own.
Without saying any numbers, we're well in the 7-digit number. So even from the pole patch fire 8 years ago, that was about a $250,000 fire. Now we're well in the 7 digits. So.
Yeah, millions for those who. And if the city since it started in city property, people wonder why we have reserves. I think it's for kind of flooding and fires and unexpected things. But so, council, do you have any questions of Mr. Barker, Councilmember Pulver?
What's a chipper day?
So we've done one already when pole patch. This was 2 years ago. Weber Fire, they're the other agency that does a lot of wildfire stuff. We'll bring up a state chipper, like a big wood chipper, a big one, and they pull it around from yard to yard, and people make piles of branches, and then we'll chip them up and all the deadfall. Usually we shoot it back into the woods, kind of, so it decomposes, or if you want it hauled off, you bring a trailer and you haul it off. But they'll do it at no cost.
So it's cutting branches back.
Cutting all
away
the
from
deadfall
home
and
fire.
cleaning up.
You're creating a safe space around your house, basically.
Right.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay, do we have a motion then to approve the community wildfire preparation plan? Kind of disappointed.
I know.
Mayor, I move that we approve the community wildfire preparation plan.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further questions of Mr. Barker?
It's fitting that Blake motioned that one being the closest to that fire.
Yeah. Okay, then we will take a roll call vote on this. Councilmember Barker.
Yes.
Councilmember Dalpaz.
Yes.
Councilmember Watson.
Yes.
Councilmember Pulver.
Yes.
And Councilmember Severing.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We'll now go on to the next item, Council department. Our council department reports, is that correct? Would you like to pull up, John, the sales tax report?
Or Dave.
Or Dave, whoever's running that down there? I think while Dave is pulling that up, the auditors are going to start coming in here pretty soon. And just as a reminder, nothing is for sure until they sign that report. We have historically not had many adjustments at all, but they will be doing that starting soon. We should have the report. We've got to submit it to the state by the end of December. Peter's informed me in our discussions that he's getting pretty close to having all the accounts reconciled, and we feel fairly comfortable with the numbers we've got. But if we could get the sales tax report up.
Sorry, I'm trying to pull it up.
I can go in the meantime.
Okay, let's go with Councilmember Pulver while you're looking to pull that up.
Just for Public Works, 1,700 still going great. They've brought in some extra crew to help lay the more main line, and obviously the fire and runoff is the key thing. And I think you saw the fact that they put up some areas for sandbags that residents can go get and fill up and use. And then one of the things is that they've put stakes in the burn scar with GPS coordinates so they can actually, when it rains, they can understand if that's movement or no. So just as to do that. And then something that I was trying to explain to my wife, because they were going around our neighborhood and making loud noises, was the sewer rat that does the mapping of the sewer lines. It makes some weird sounds. So just FYI to people that have that weird sound in the neighborhood, that's what that is. So.
Okay. Anything else, Councilmember Pulver?
Not for Public Works stuff.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Watson, do you have things you'd like to report on Administration and Recreation Department?
Yes. So for recreation, the pool only has 2 more days that they're open, Saturday from 11 to 6 and Monday from 12 to 6:30. And then it will be closed for the season. Rob Rhodes was sworn in yesterday, our newest officer who's actually returning. And offices will be closed on Monday in observance of Labor Day. And then the primary election is over, but our election on November 4th is upcoming. So we encourage we encourage citizens to research the candidates and attend the debates and place their vote.
Okay, anything else?
That's it.
Thank you for those reports. I think we now have the sales tax collection report up. This is a full year. Can you enlarge that at all, Dave? I guess people can see it back there.
Control scroll.
But this has our collections by month. As you can see, last year, we collected gross 4.8 million, a little over 4.8 million in sales tax. This year, we collected 4,934,000-ish, which according to the calculation here is an increase over what was actually collected last year of 2.64%. I would point out that I believe the state admin fee for the fiscal year 2025 is probably incorrect at 84,000. I think we've got probably about 127, 130,000.
150.
150. So that'll reduce down the net amount received. I thought this is the old report. This isn't the corrected report, I don't believe.
Scroll to the bottom, I can tell you if it's the corrected report.
It's not, because it shows
yeah.
the 12.1%, which didn't have the June. So bottom line is we did have an increase in sales tax collection of 2.64%. That's what we've used in the budget with an additional 2% increase on that, which allowed us to reduce property tax increase because we had excess that we could fund some of the things next year with. Any other questions you may have? I just would point out that Mr. Pulver has been working with me with the Kempsey Gardner Population Committee. We believe, we haven't got to the bottom of it yet, but we believe our population is underestimated. We have another meeting with them on September the 2nd, I believe. And Dave, I think Stacy is, we're waiting to get some information from her in regards to the number of connections we had year by year, starting in 2020. It's our intention to hopefully get an adjustment there, which would increase our sales tax.
Should get a
allocation.
retroactive adjustment, right?
We would hope so. And we have talked to some of our legislators who are talking about, intervening with some administrative rules. Apparently, there were no rules given to them that we can find anyway on how to calculate that population. But at this point in time, it shows that our population has only grown 400 people since 2020 when the Census Bureau was taken. So we're feeling like we need to get more information because it's surely we don't understand. But I want to thank Councilmember Pulver for his involvement and noticing that up front. So with that, John, we'll turn to you. Do you have any comments on capital projects you'd like to make?
The big things that we'll have better updates on hopefully next month or the following one is Barker Park. We're moving forward with the RFP for the design there, so that we can then have a good estimate on the cost to get that project done, and hopefully a timeline as we've talked in the past. And then the pool liner and the pool playground. I know the playground provider was on site last Friday to see the site and to hopefully give us our final design so we can get it ordered, installed, and going. And then Dave and his team have been getting the pumps at the pool upgraded. And so now with us heading into the off season, as mentioned by Councilwoman Watson, we should have all that done. And next summer, the pool utilities should be a little bit lower, the liner should be new, and the playground should be new as well. And as a reminder, that's in a large part thanks to the ramp grant that we got from through Weber County Ramp Program. So that's it.
Thank you, John. Scott, before I forget, several months ago, we had Tri-City come in here and we outlined a plan for their correction. At some point in time, maybe next council meeting, could you get us an update on that? Because frankly, if they're not moving forward, we need to move and make the necessary adjustments there to do that. So maybe next council meeting, you could give us an update?
We had a official meeting with the owners of Tri-City. We had an on-site inspection that included police engineering and planning department with we will clean up to some extent by September 1st. So we have yet to have that follow-up meeting, and I'm absolutely happy to bring it.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other reports from staff? Ryan, Dave, Chief, Casey?
Hey, Mayor. Real quick, since Casey's here, it was mentioned earlier tonight, and I know last week, that we need a better notification. Can you give us an update on Everbridge? Is that what it's called? Or that's the reverse 911 system that the county now uses? So there is a program in place. Just quick. Yeah, absolutely. I like to call you out. I meant to ask you earlier, but since I've heard the council mentioned it earlier as well with the other.
Yeah, so Weber County, the entire Homeland Security Region 1 recently did a RFP for mass notification. We used to be with Code Red. They recently moved over to Everbridge. That includes Cache, Rich, Box Elder, and Weber and Morgan counties, and Davis County, I believe. We're all on Everbridge now. So I encourage all of the community members to to go on to the Everbridge website, and I can get with Katie and have her post the link to be able to sign up for that program. It'll send you an automatic notification. We can send it through dispatch. I'm certified in being able to send notifications through the Everbridge program. I've gone through those classes. It's very similar to what Code Red did, but it's not to the extent of the ones that will make your phones go off no matter where you're at. It's geolocated, geofence, and so we can set a parameter of it being if you're in a certain area of the city, you'll get the notification. So for with the fire, for example, we can set the reverse 911 or the geofence. We could have set, the parameters of everything east of 1050 and north of 2850. And everybody that was in that area or who went into that area would get a notification saying you're in an evacuation zone. You need to leave immediately so that this is for safety. So as a city, we can send out these notifications, and then at the county level, they can send out the more intense notifications that are called IPOS, which is an acronym, but I don't know what it stands for. Something warning system. So I don't remember the IPA part of it. So that's what we have, and I'll have Katie post a link on Facebook to get people to sign up for Everbridge.
Okay. One thing maybe you could do as our emergency preparedness appointee, you can't get the notifications if you don't have cell service.
Right. Yeah.
And the cell service up on mostly the affected areas was overwhelmed. You couldn't communicate with family, you couldn't get notices. So maybe as part of the emergency prepared plan, we can put some pressure on some of these cell phone providers to get a tower somewhere where it'll make accessibility to the entire city. So
we also had that problem in the EOC. And it's gonna be part of the conversation we have, but I wasn't able to communicate with Lisa, our county emergency manager, through cell phone because she was up at the church on 1050 in the mobile command unit, and I was here. And so finally, I actually asked Dave to have all of the public works guys come back and grab radios so that we could communicate it with them up on the hill.
Seems to be an emergency issue. Maybe we can approach it from that way.
Yeah.
And just let them know that we need coverage in the areas.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You bet.
Does that answer your question,
Yeah.
Councilmember Barker?
Yeah, it's good to get the update that there is something already in place.
Yeah, it's there. Like I said, we used to have a Code Red, and then they just recently switched from Code Red to Everbridge, and they learned when they switched to Everbridge that a lot of the Code Red numbers were landlines that are no longer in service. So it's just a process of getting people to sign up with their current phone numbers.
Okay, good, perfect. Councilmember
Hey,
Galvin?
Casey, sorry, quick question. There were some people that were outside of 1050 that were claiming they were getting the reverse 911s. What is that because the geofencing can't be completely precise, or because there were people to the west of 1050 that were claiming to get it, and it kind of made them feel like, oh man, I got to get out of here, but really it technically wasn't them that was asked to be evacuated. Have you heard that or have any
Well,
idea?
I hadn't heard that. I'm not exactly sure how reverse 911 works. Chief would be able to speak to that.
So know that people were evacuating and it was going to continue to go through Wednesday, ultimately. I think it went through Wednesday, and so that was just an update. They may have read it like, oh my gosh, I have to. Just it wasn't that you have to. It was just an alert that evacuation.
Okay, so it could have been misread on their side that, okay. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yep.
Anything else?
We have public comments or where?
Yeah, that's next if there's no more comments. Okay, we're on item number 11 now. If anyone here would like to make any comments this evening or anyone online? We would ask you once again to follow our public comment rules, which is no longer than 5 minutes, and please state your name if you're a resident of North Ogden. So if you have anything now, would be the time to step up to the podium or raise your hand online. No one here? Anyone online, John? I mean, Dave?
No, sir.
All right. I see then no public comments. Do we have any further comments from council or staff? Councilmember Pulver?
Just two things real fast. And there are two enforcement things. I think fire life safety, I think that's kind of what we're pushing. Not kind of what, that's what we are pushing. And two things that I want to, one is a kudo is that the enforcement of fire dangers, I think, was taken care of, at least next to me anyway. But I've noticed that that's been stepped up quite a bit. And so that's good. I think just because, most of the fire dangers outside of the city, there is still some areas inside that need to be taken care of. And then also scooters and e-bikes, usually by kids. And I guess that's something that I've noticed just in the past, I don't know, over the summer has exploded, and they're whipping around corners. And I don't know if there's any, that would be the next thing I would maybe suggest up on, farther north. Well, basically everywhere is just to educate, because I foresee a death coming because they do not look, they don't pay attention. Oh, I have a helmet on, I should be fine. Anyway, just something for the chief and everybody else, I guess, too.
I just read where a city just passed an ordinance about, and we may already have it, I'm not aware, but riding on the sidewalks and what they can do, and because they were having all kinds of problems, accidents, etc. I'll try to remember what the city was, and we could see if we have an ordinance similar. But yeah, there's it's really interesting, particularly up in the north part of the city. A lot of young kids driving motorcycles, 12, 13 years old, motorized, literally motorcycles on the street. So just so you're aware that that is, and we do have the ordinance there. I did talk to John, and I think this is important for the council to remember, particularly in the spring. As you recall, Salt Lake had a big fire burn down in construction apartment complex because the city hadn't cleared the land they owned and decided they would do that and started a fire. So we've made sure that Dave and his people are aware that city property, we ought to make sure we're taking care of that in the springtime, getting the weeds cut down so that we don't contribute to any fire hazards ourselves, and Dave's made note of that. So thanks for your comments. Anything else? Council Member Dalpaz.
At the beginning of the meeting, I had a big spiel about the fire, and guess what? I didn't think our firefighters, and even a firefighter that is sitting right next to me. So how ridiculous was that? So I just wanted to mention how amazing the firefighting efforts were. But it's funny that I missed that. But thank you so much to our firefighters and all the agencies that came to help us out. It was a miracle to see. It was amazing.
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed, there was a listing posted to our Facebook page, but it's my intent to have Ryan compose a letter that I can send to each one of those agencies thanking them because it surely was a team effort. And so thanks for that comment, Councilmember Dalpaz. Anything else?
John has his hand raised.
John?
I just wanted to remind council next week for your work session that the planning commission will be joining you to specifically talk about the future of the city growth and kind of the long range plan as we're looking at tweaking the general plan as part of the planning commission goals for the year.
That brought something to my mind. I think Councilmember Barker, as our fire marshal, has brought this up that, should development be continuing up north of the city when there's only one exit out of the cove at this point in time? Has your position on that changed? So the Planning Commission and Scott, we ought to be addressing that issue. I think the chief could testify to the fact what happened to our city's streets when that fire happened. And if we need to evacuate people out of there and we've got one exit, it could be a fire, health and safety issue, as you pointed out, Councilmember Pulver. So that probably needs to be addressed. If that's a legitimate reason to hamper the development till that is put in place where there's more than one exit out of that area. So I think that's probably a legitimate reason. So, okay, anything else? If not, I'd be looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Councilmember Watson. Meeting is adjourned.